What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Money's Funko Pops. I am, of course, Money, and today we are finally going to be sitting down and looking at my custom Parks and Rec Pops that I have been working on for probably the entire span of this whole quarantine situation. So I've been doing it slowly but surely, kind of spacing it out and doing a lot of customs in the background, and now I finally have everything together. So we're going to go ahead and look at the Pops put all together. I'm going to show you guys kind of the process from the very beginning of planning all the way up to the final product and everything in between. I have all sorts of clips of me putting them together, kind of boiling Pops to splice them all together. So it's going to be a fun video. I'm really excited for it. So when it came to making this whole thing come to fruition, I went ahead and I started at the very basic level of all of this. I kind of planned out which characters I think would transition well to Pops, and if it was even possible for me to do something like that. So I basically started with a deep dive on the Funko app, trying to find pieces of Pops that I could splice together to try and make these without doing too many alterations, which actually turned out to be much easier than I thought that it was going to be. So when it came to characters like Ben Wyatt and Perkins, which were my first two that I decided that I wanted to do, they were actually very easy to put together. It was characters that were a little bit more difficult that took some time for me to go ahead and try and deep dive in and find pieces that worked out perfectly and looked great for the character and had a little bit of personality to it as well. I didn't want all these characters to just kind of look basic. I wanted there to be a little bit of personality in each of these molds, and I think I accomplished that, so I'm pretty proud of that. So here you guys will see my initial plan. What I did was I went to photop.com and I took the glams of all of these Pops and I spliced them together terribly to try and see which would work. And then you can also see that I did plan on doing a Mona Lisa as well, but that unfortunately got scrapped because I couldn't find pieces that I think really did justice to the character. So for the next step, I went ahead and I took these terribly spliced together molds that I created on Photoshop and I sent them over to a graphic designer, Jay Rizz Designs, which if you guys do not follow him, I will link him down below in the description. He does all sorts of awesome custom work and custom graphics, and this project would be absolutely nothing without those graphics that he made for me. So I will link him down below. Go ahead and toss him a follow because his content is just outstanding. So like I said, I threw these designs over to him and I asked him if it was something that he could possibly do, and he delivered. These designs look awesome. Here's kind of a very basic put together I did of all of these different designs, and then from there we went ahead and moved on to the next step, which was getting these custom boxes made. Now I went to a homie that I've known for a very long time, Noah over at Cross-Eyed Collector, who does awesome custom boxes. He does replicas of existing boxes, and he also does custom art in boxes as well. So he went ahead and put these awesome boxes for me. They look incredible. He was able to use those designs from Jay Rizz, so I was so extremely happy with them. And then it came to, okay, I have the boxes ordered, they're on their way. Now I have to start making these figures. So the first Pop that we had to make was Ben Wyatt. It was a crime that they never made a Ben Wyatt. It was weird to me that they never made an official one. I mean, how can you have Leslie Knope without the Ice Clown? So it was just easy. This was probably one of the easiest ones it was for me to make. As you guys can see here, he has his hands behind his back because, you know, Ben tries to be serious. I do plan on doing a Ben variant somewhere down the line, maybe the Cones of Dunshire, or maybe even a Calzone would be a pretty cool one. But to make the Ben figure, what we did was we used Sidney Crosby from the NHL, and then we used a character from Billionaires whose name escapes me. And then all we had to do was boil the body off of Sidney, boil the head off of the Billionaires Pop, and then put them together. This was probably one of the easiest ones to put together, and if you ask me, I think it looks just like Ben. The Sidney Crosby head does Ben so much justice, and I think it just looks so much like him, so I'm very happy with this Ben one. And of course, I had to do a chase variant for Ben because, you know, this is one of my favorite moments from the show, and I had to do it. So we have Ben dressed up as Sad Batman as a chase. Now I went ahead and I posted all of these things on the Reddit to get opinions from people in the community, and somebody actually suggested after I had this made to put blue kind of like tears running down his cheeks. So maybe I'll go ahead and I'll dive back into this one and get some blue acrylic paint and do a little bit of, you know, detailing on him to get those tears on there from the episode where Donna and Tom take Ben to treat himself and he cries in the Batman costume. one of my favorite moments from the show. So when it came to Ben Wyatt, I knew that I had to do a variant with him as Batman. And for those of you asking, yes, this is just a standard Batman. This is not custom. And I have a cousin who is a big Batman aficionado, and he said that this is the suit that Ben wears in the episodes. So that's why I went with this Batman. And now we will move into the next one, which is probably one of my favorite characters from the show, Chris Traeger. Now, Chris Traeger has a very spunky personality, very positive. So when it came to creating a mold for him, I know that I had to do something that had personality in it, something that had energy as a part of that mold. So I went ahead and I did a deep dive here. I found another NHL player to be his head, because a lot of NHL players are just generic looking white dudes, so it worked out for me. I can't remember which NHL player I used for the head, but for the body, I went with Michael Scott from the Toby versus Michael 2-pack from The Office. Honestly, the Michael Scott point worked so perfectly for Chris Traeger, because I did a lot of research on these. I went ahead and I rewatched the entire show before I got into them, and I kind of realized that Chris Traeger loves to point, especially when he goes, and Perkins. So in my opinion, I think I made the right call by going with Chris Traeger pointing. So this guy is pretty simple. Again, just like Ben, it was just taking the body off of the hockey player and then taking the head off of Michael Scott. This is pretty easy. Like I said, it wasn't all that difficult, and I think that it looks incredibly awesome for how simple it was to make it. So I was very happy with this one. Now, these three were probably the easiest of the Parks and Rec customs. From here on out, there was a lot more work that went into them, and even this one that was just another head swap, it was very difficult to get it to go together. So this is Ann Perkins in her nurse's outfit. I do plan on eventually doing an Ann Perkins where she's not in the scrubs outfit, but for me, it just, felt right to do Ann because she's a nurse for pretty much, a good chunk of the show. So now this is Patty Jenkins' head from the director's line, and then Elliot from Scrubs as the body. And it worked out pretty well, if you ask me. I've had a lot of people say that Ann Perkins' head looks more like Annabelle Porter from Blush, which I get. But going back and watching the show again, Ann's hair does get kind of long towards the end of it, right as she transitions from being a nurse to working in the parks department, or excuse me, the health department. So that's why I went ahead with this one. It was really hard to find an Ann head that worked best, but this one definitely does it justice compared to some of the other molds that I was going to go ahead and go with. So I think that it worked out well. So this one gave me a run for my money, because when I went ahead and boiled the head off of Patty Jenkins, it was impossible to get the water out of her head. I might have a video of me trying to squeeze all the water out of it after boiling it. All right, guys, let's see. Come on, there we go. Okay. She's just... I
just heard the leak.
So she is full of water, so we're going to go ahead and drain her out before we attach her. Filled with water. It's been about 10 minutes probably, and she's still filled, so I don't exactly know how we're going to get that out of there, but as Danny's telling me, they're going to get all moldy if I don't get the water out, so we're going to have to think of something. But, nonetheless, we got them separated. Real excited for that. And Funko Pop ASMR. It was so frustrating to try and get the water out of this. I had to have it sit overnight. I had to shake, or try to shake all the water out of it. I mean, this one wasn't difficult to make. It was just frustrating to get it to the final product because of the head was just bigger, I guess, and the water came down into her hair or something. I don't know how it works, but it was very frustrating to make, but I think that it turned out great. So the next one that we have here is Donna Meagle. Now, Donna, I had to go ahead and try and find a pose that was a little bit sassy. Donna's a pretty sassy person, so it felt kind of stupid of me to not put her in a sassy pose, so that's why it was frustrating for me to do. I also had an issue doing the paint job on this one, which you might be able to tell close up, but in box you really can't tell. For the sculpt for this, I used Okoye with the wig from New York Comic Con, and then I used Fat Amy from Pitch Perfect because she was in kind of like a pose, rather than just standing still. One of the biggest difficulties that I ran into, other than the paint job that I had to do on it, was that Okoye is a bobblehead, because all Marvel Pops are bobbleheads. So when it came to taking that off, I had to get in there with a pair of pliers and rip the spring off of Okoye's body, and it was kind of tedious to get that spring off. I watched a bunch of how-to videos on YouTube, and people made it look so easy, and it took me like 20 minutes to get that spring off, and eventually I did, and then getting it onto Fat Amy's body was very difficult, so I had to kind of load it in there like I said, and it has a little bit of pressure on the box, which I think is okay, but it turned out great. I mean, Donna was definitely one of the more difficult ones that I had to do here, but I personally think that it turned out great, and I'm excited. I don't think I'm going to do any other Donna variants down the line like I've talked about with Anne and Ben. I have variants in mind for them, but for Donna, I can't necessarily think of any variants that I could do with her. So if you guys think of any moments that you think Donna should be in for a future wave of these pops, drop me a comment down below. We've got 2 left, and these are probably the 2 that I have received the most amount of positive feedback about. So we have the Hot Topic exclusive Janet Snakehole to pair with Burt Macklin FBI. Now this Janet Snakehole, actually, I didn't make. I actually went into Etsy and had a custom one commissioned, which is very cool. I will go ahead and I will link her Etsy shop down below in the description. So if you guys want to go ahead and pick up one of these custom pops from her, you can totally go ahead and do that. And I'm blanking on the shop name right now, but like I said, I will link that down below in the description. It was a great price. It showed up later than I expected it to. She gave it a 2-month time frame, and it actually took 3 months altogether. I guess there were issues with shipping it out, and it sat at the post office for a week before I messaged her because it got lost or something, but it ended up showing up here. I'm very happy with it. It looks exactly like it did in the pictures that she put on her Etsy shop, and also I'm very thankful for that because I had, like I said, I had this box made and the artwork made before I even had the custom. So if there was even a little bit of a change in that, I would have been kind of upset because it wouldn't match, but it looks exactly like she said that it would. Interesting that Janet Snakehole got canceled by Funko, but the Burt Macklin ended up going to Hot Topic. I guess the initial plan was that Burt Macklin was going to be a chase of Andy, and that Janet Snakehole was going to be a chase of April Ludgate, and that this next one was actually going to be a chase of Ron Swanson, but then all 3 chases got canceled. The last one here that we have, guys, is probably, I'm saying it again, my favorite one out of all of them. This one's definitely my favorite out of all of them. Here we have Mr. Duke Silver with his saxophone, and this was probably one of the most frustrating ones to make, if not the most frustrating one to make, because this had the most amount of pieces put into it. The most difficult part about doing this was finding a pop that had a blue suit for Duke Silver and then also had an arm out so I could put that saxophone in it. Luckily, I was able to find Vince McMahon from the WWE. He's the announcer, and I was able to go ahead and snag that for like $2 on eBay. I'm not even kidding. As for the head, it is of course just Ron Swanson. You know, I didn't do any special head for this. This is just literally an extra Ron Swanson that I had sitting around, so I went ahead and pulled the head off of that. We ran into a lot of issues with this one because after Ann Perkins, we started on the Duke Silver. And Ann Perkins had a lot of water in her head when I went ahead and put it together, and we were trying to figure out a way to not get that head kind of, you know, waterlocked. So what we decided to do was put the body in the water to see if that worked. And what ended up happening is that Ron Swanson's body completely came apart, so we had a terrible time trying to get the little knob out of the bottom of Ron Swanson's head. So we ran into a little bit of a problem here with Ron Swanson. The body came off but left the little nub there. So Danny went ahead and took a pair of pliers to it and pulled out all these pieces of plastic. After that, I ordered a little miniature saxophone off of some dollhouse website that I probably shouldn't have given my credit card information to because it's so sketchy. But that went ahead and showed up the same day as the Ron Swanson pieces did. And then we also got some little sunglasses, which were like 25 cents. And then from there, it came to editing the Vince body to go ahead and make it Duke Silver rather than a WWE announcer. So I took a pair of scissors to the microphone in his hand, and that was actually one big piece that was stuck in there. So we went ahead and just pulled that microphone right on out. It was a lot easier than I thought that was going to be. And then when it came to the saxophone, I just got some super glue. I went ahead and I held it there for 5 minutes, and it stuck. So that was pretty easy as well. I know a lot of people have called me out for not putting his hat on, but I'm going to base this off of his appearance at the big Pawnee Eagleton merger at the end of season 6, because he doesn't wear a hat in that episode. So that is what we are going to base this off of rather than that. It has been a long 3.5 months of putting all of these customs together. From the start of designing these back in probably the beginning of March when I started staying at home from work, all the way up to last week when Janet Snakehole finally arrived from Etsy. It has been a labor of love putting all these together. You know, Funko is not going to be coming out with any new Parks and Rec Pops. They have discontinued the license for some reason. There is no Parks and Rec Pops down the pipeline, so I decided to go ahead and do some myself of characters and moments that I think deserved to get pops and were kind of stifled from that first wave. I want to hear from you guys, from you who are Parks and Rec fans. Which one of these is your favorite? Which one of these would you want to get your hands on most? And I actually want your guys' help. If there is a character or a moment or some sort of variant that you want to see from a character that already exists, make sure you drop me a comment down below and let me know which Parks and Rec customs you guys think would be awesome to see me do in the future, because I do plan on doing more of these, maybe, you know, like I said, 1 or 2 at a time, and then eventually do another big video like this with kind of a big second set of all of these put together. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I absolutely appreciate all of the support that you guys show me on YouTube and on Instagram. I'm just so humbled by your support. And as always, guys, I will be seeing you soon. Thanks, guys. What's up, guys? Thanks so much for watching. I really do appreciate your support. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any more content that I post here to the channel. Down below me, there are 2 different videos. You have my suggestion, which is the video that I suggest you watch, or you can click next video, which will take you to a video very similar to the one that you just watched. So thank you guys so much for your support, and I'll see you soon.